profound and insightful and meaningful. Just know that this is a topic that requires a tremendous amount of research and effort. So whatever you hear and you have difficulty with, please follow up with him or follow with anyone. Anything meaningful requires a tremendous amount of effort and time. Without further ado, Rabbi Mizrachi.
Thank you very much. It's great to see young guys and girls coming on a Sunday afternoon to listen to some words of Torah that comes from the Torah, from Judaism, and I'm sure you won't regret it. This hour will be very entertaining, very interesting, and also very valuable for the rest of your life. If you listen to every word I'm going to say, I'm sure you're going to gain some knowledge that can help you very much in the rest of your life. In case you're not aware, today we have more than 80,000 religions and cults in the world. More than 80,000. Is it possible that all of them is the Word of God? Probably not. Did God give different religions 80,000 times? He's playing games with himself? Probably not. The answer is, in that case, he's a Jew who is searching for the truth. Not only a Jew, every person is searching for God. He wants to be close to the creator of the world, the one who created this beautiful world that we live in, with so many nice things. How does a person supposed to find the truth if there's 80,000 paths? Which one is going to choose? It will take him more than 7 years of his life to investigate even half of them. So by the time he ended, he did not fulfill his mission one way or the other. So it's a lost case. Really nowhere to start. So what's the right logic here? How does a person start his investigation? He goes in the right chronological order. Which religion has the highest chance to be correct? The first one or the last one? The one who started a month ago? Or one who started 3,330 years ago?
Trick question, neither one.
Huh? So what do you think?
First one.
We go with the first one. When we review all the other major ones, of course we don't have time for every cult to start investigate them just because it started somewhere. So we go for the main religions, which is Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism. That's basically the main religions in the world. We find that the first one is Judaism. It's 1,300 years before Christianity started. 1,300 years. It's a long, long time. It's 1,800 years before Islam started. Islam is about 1,400 years old. So it's about 1,900 years before Islam. It's about 800, 900 years before Buddhism. Buddha was 2,400 years ago. So the Torah was published all over the world 900 years before Buddha. So in that case, which religion should we examine first? The truth is, we'll go with Judaism. But it's a much, much easier way. It takes exactly 5 minutes to prove any religion you bring. If a person is knowledgeable in the book, well, if he is not knowledgeable, it may take him a few months to learn the book. But if a person already aware of Christianity, is aware of Quran, is aware of Islam, in that case, it takes exactly 5 minutes to prove that the book is not divine. Why it's so important to prove if the book is divine or not? Very simple. If we prove that the book that claimed to be the book of God is not from God, there's no point of wasting 1 minute from my life about this book. As beautiful as it may be, bring all kinds of nice stories, who cares? It's not the truth. We are searching for the truth. If God gave it, I might as well choose if I want to listen to him or not. That's already my choice. But if I know for sure it's not the book of God, why would I waste a minute on that book? Millions of people wrote books. Why should I devote my entire life for someone's idea? If I want to do it, I want to do it. But obviously there's no common sense here. How long does it take to prove that the Quran is not the book of God? A minute. Why? All you have to do is find 1 or 2 mistakes, and you know God didn't write it, because God doesn't make human errors. What kind of God is that? That he makes foolish human errors that even we don't make. Right? Even logical people like us, intelligent people like us that have some knowledge in history, we won't make some of the mistakes that the Quran has. So it brings us to the conclusion that the one who wrote the Quran had very, very limited knowledge about history. For instance, he made a scenario that there was a meeting between Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, who lived 3,400 years ago, to Haman, the minister of Persia, which lived 900 years later. How can it be a meeting between Pharaoh and Haman? Obviously, the one who wrote the Quran was not knowledgeable in the right chronological order in history. And he faked a scenario which never happened in reality. Or I give you another example. Who was the mother of Jesus? Mary, right?
Yeah.
The father supposedly Joseph, but then he's not the father because they claim God made the mother pregnant. So the question is, how many years ago the story took place? 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago. Now we have another story in the Torah that Moses had a brother named Aaron and they had a sister named Miriam. Miriam. So we are talking about two Miriams here. Miriam, the mother of JC, and in English they call her Mary, in Spanish Maria, but it's the same lady. And we have Miriam, the sister of Moses. How many years apart they live? 1,300 years. The sister of Moses, it was before the Exodus of Egypt, 3,350 years ago. When the mother of JC lived, 2,000 years ago. In the Quran, it's the same woman. Which means in the Quran, Moses is the uncle of JC. When he died 1,300 years before JC was born. So this is such ridiculous mistakes that every intelligent human being, after 5 minutes reading this, will say, what am I wasting my time on this? But believe it or not, about 1.5 billion Muslims follow it, and some of them ready to die for it, thinking it's the truth of God. But it takes 5 minutes to prove it's not. We didn't come here to speak about Islam, so let's move on. 2 words about Christianity. I brought you free CDs and DVDs over there, very popular. Thousands of them goes every month, and the website is booming, Baruch Hashem, thank God, every month more and more listeners. You would find it very interesting, and you gain a lot of knowledge that is very important to understand the purpose of life, which we're going to speak about now. Christianity, I have a debate with a priest here. You can watch it. It's even have Hebrew subtitle. It's in English. It's a very famous debate. More than 1 million people watch it on the internet. And hundreds of Christians left Christianity, among them 5 priests who were in their church all their life. They kicked it. And now 2 of them are converting. 3 of them became righteous Gentiles without Christianity. They realize it cannot be the book of God. I'll give you an example. Christianity says that the cave of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is in the city of Shechem, Nablus. Every fool knows it's in Hebron. Ask every Jewish boy in 1st grade, in yeshiva. Moishi, where is the cave of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? In Hebron. Itzi, where is the cave? In Hebron. Every little kid, you know, the little kids with the yarmulke and peos, you ask them, they know. But the writer of the New Testament didn't have this knowledge. He didn't know where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the most important 3 people in history, are buried. He didn't know. And he wrote in Shechem. Then it says in the Torah, now let me explain to you something. All the main religions mentioning the Torah in their book. Christianity, they call it the New Testament. They call the Torah the Old Testament. Why? Why they care so much to talk about the Torah? They are trying to continue where the Torah ended. From the Torah, the Tanakh, the last prophet, the last book of Judaism, from 24 books of the Tanakh, of the Bible, is Shir HaShirim, the Songs of Songs. It starts from Genesis and Songs of Song, King Solomon. From then on, they're trying to prove that God gave another book. So if God gave part B, part 2 has to comply with part 1. It's the same writer. He cannot forget what he wrote in part 1, even if it's a human being. Nevertheless, the creator of the world, he knows what he wrote in part 1, right? The Old Testament, the new one. In the new one, it says that Jacob went to Egypt with 75 people. But in the Torah, it says 70. What happened to God? He doesn't remember if it was 70 or 75. This is a human error. It leaves no doubt God did not write this book. He doesn't make such human errors that I wouldn't make. And I'm far away from being God. I wouldn't make those mistakes. Limited knowledge in Judaism, you won't make those mistakes. I'll give you another example. The New Testament starts with proving the genealogy of Joseph the carpenter. Joseph the carpenter, they're trying to link him all the way to King David. Why they made such an effort to link Joseph the carpenter to King David, who lived about 1,000 years before him? They go about 1,000 years, more than 30 generations. Why? Because in the Torah it says Messiah, son of David, has to come from the family of David. And they're trying to prove that JC is the Messiah. So without linking him to King David, there is no chance that he's the Messiah, and Christianity collapsed before it even started. It's the end of it. It cannot even start. Because the whole concept of it, this is the Son of God who will come to redeem the world. He has to be the Messiah. The Torah says Messiah can come only from one family, the family of King David. So they trying to prove Joseph all the way back to King David, and then the story begins. The story is that Joseph get engaged to Mary. They really officially get married, but they don't move in together yet, so no physical relation. He goes away, he comes back after a few months, and he finds that his wife, even though he never touched her, she's pregnant. He asks her, what's going on? I never touched you. She said, no, don't worry, I never cheated on you. I'm a holy woman. God came to me in a dream and made me pregnant. God made me pregnant. First problem is, if that's what happened, we're not questioning now if the story is legit or not. If she had a dream, she didn't have a dream, that's besides the point right now. If it really happened according to what they say, that's a major contradiction. Why? Because they're trying to prove that JC is the son of Joseph that came from the family of King David, and right after that, the next page, they write that Joseph has nothing to do with the baby. You understand what a critical mistake? You're trying to prove to me for a page and a half all the genealogy from King David all the way to Joseph the carpenter to show that he is from the family of King David, Joseph. Fine, Joseph is the son of David, but JC is not his son. Such mistake. They don't have an answer, even the Pope. They don't know what to do. Why? Because it's a first grade error. Now we have another problem. In the Torah that we receive in Mount Sinai in front of millions of witnesses, God said to the Jews that one of the worst sins is to touch a married woman. If a woman is married to another man, he sanctified her, put a ring, he gave her ketubah, what we do in a Jewish wedding. It's actually worse than a murder to go and cheat with this married woman. Even to go with a single woman is a sin. But to go with a married woman, it's a horrible sin. It's almost impossible to correct this sin. That's how bad is this sin. And if the boy is born from this relation, it's a mamzer, it's an illegitimate boy. You cannot marry anybody except one in his status. It's a horrible life for this boy, for the sin of his mother, which is a married woman. So obviously there's no doubt that is one of the worst sins possible in life. Why would God violate that rule? He warned us, the Jews, be very careful not to even touch a finger of a married woman. Don't even look at her. She's not belongs to you. She belongs to her husband. Baal in Hebrew, Baal means few things. Baal means the first one who had relation with her. That means Baal, Boel. Second means owner. That's why he buys his wife, by giving her something and she agreed to marry him. So basically he's buying her to be his wife. This is the transaction here, buying. So he buys his wife to be his. And then one day if they want to get divorced, he releases her by giving her a get. And then she's free to go and marry to whoever she wants. But as long as he did not release her, she cannot have any other man touch her. Why would God come to a married woman and make her pregnant and make the boy a mamzer, an illegitimate boy? He needs the Messiah to be a mamzer? It's the biggest embarrassment in history. So obviously it doesn't make any sense. After warning so many times, don't touch married women, he comes to a married woman in a dream and made her pregnant. Doesn't make any sense.
God makes mistakes too, you know?
Huh?
God makes mistakes too.
Well, that's what you say. I did not agree with that. So now there are many human errors, many. We don't have time for that. You watch my debate, you see that the priest in the end say, you put me in a hole, I don't know how I'm going to dig myself out of there. And I say to him, I just proved to you it's a false religion. He didn't say no. He answered, but my heart doesn't let me live it. It was so good to me over the years. So I told him the heart is all illusions. It's illusion, it's not the truth. People have all kinds of illusions and feelings in their heart. Who's to say that it's the truth? I told him the Muslim who come to blow the bus and kill women and children on the bus also have an illusion that he's going to heaven. If he only knew where he really goes. So whatever we have in our heart, all kinds of imaginations, that's nothing to do with the truth of God. Sometimes it's the truth, sometimes it's not. We are now talking scientific truth that can be proven. So far, 10 minutes, we spoke about two religions. What about Buddhism? One day a person named Buddha came, and claimed he saw the light. How many people witnessed that? No one. It's a story of one man. Why should I follow and dedicate my entire life because someone told me a story? Is that a logical thing to do? Why would I follow Muhammad that came from the desert and claimed that Angel Gabriel gave him the Quran when nobody ever witnessed that event? Why would I believe Mary that come to me and try to save her life? Because in the old day, a married woman who cheated on her husband was getting executed. She didn't get a prize on television like today. They bring her to a show and give her a car for the actual thing that she did. The days were a little bit different. Jews, non-Jews, if a woman cheated on her husband, it's execution, as you can read in the Torah. So the only way for her to save her life was, what? To save her life, to make up a story that she really didn't cheat. So because of her story, a religion of 1.5 billion people would start it? How can it be? How they believe such a story of a woman who had all the reasons in the world to lie? But we, the Jews, are a little bit different than what I said so far. What's the difference between us and them? And that would lead me to speak about our purpose in life. We are the only religion. Remember, please do not ever forget what I'm about to tell you. We are the only religion who started in front of millions of witnesses. We didn't believe a story of a person who came from nowhere and told us God spoke to me or gave me a book. No, absolutely not. The opposite. When God came to Moses and he told him, go and save the nation of Israel out of Egypt, they're all slaves, the answer of Moses was, anyway, they won't believe me that you spoke to me. They'll say I'm a liar. And God didn't get angry at him. What did he tell him? They're right. Why should they believe you? Just because you come and say that I spoke to you, they should believe you? No. I will speak to you in public, in front of all of them, when you bring them around the mountain, and after that they'll believe in you for eternity. And that's exactly what happened. Moses brought the nation of Israel 49 days after they came out of Egypt. This is the days now, right now. Passover, it's the Exodus of Egypt, was a week ago. Now we are counting 7 weeks to Shavuot. We're getting to the holiday of Shavuot. That's the acceptance of the Torah. The nation of Israel, in a fair day, early in the morning, Moses gathered them around the mountain, fire, a blow of a shofar, siren, the land was shaking, and everyone stood and saw the huge cloud, and the holiness of God came down on the mountain, and the first 2 commandments was read loudly to the entire nation. If you want to know exactly what happened, open the Torah in the chapter of Jethro, and you see the description how the Torah was given to the Jews. After God spoke the first 2 commandments, the nation of Israel could not tolerate the event. They started to cry and to scream to Moses, please, make God stop. We cannot tolerate this. So we get very scared. Go up to the mountain, speak to this God. Everything he will tell you for us to do, we promise to listen. Just we don't. So Moses told them, don't be afraid. God did not come to harm you. He only tests you to see if you're loyal to him and you follow his truth. And that's how Judaism started, in front of millions of witnesses. Now you may come and say to me, beautiful story you just said. I don't believe one word of it. You made it up. Very good. We are speaking logically here. So far I did not prove anything. But if you watch my film, Torah and Science, you'll be a speaker tomorrow, proving it. Why? They will not leave you any doubt that everything I told you is 100% legit. How do I know? How do I have such confidence that after you watch this film, it's 100% you will prove and put your stamp that the Torah was given to the Jews in front of millions of witnesses? After so many years since I made the film, I didn't find one person who watched it and stayed the same. Not only that, Gentiles, non-Jews, some of them very in different religion. Once they watched it, it changed their entire life. They left their phony religion and started to convert or to become a righteous Gentile. According to the Torah, God said to the world, to the Gentiles, that they have to keep 7 laws and they will be considered righteous Gentiles if they keep 7 laws. And the Jews have much more to keep. But the reward and the punishment of a Jew is much bigger than the Gentile. The Gentile who keeps the laws is subject to a reward, a much lower reward, but also a much lower punishment. But the Jew, since his mission is much greater, much larger, the reward is much bigger and the punishment is also much bigger. Everything is equal. Every Gentile can convert to Judaism if he wants. You have to accept him because he comes for the truth. But only if he came for the truth, not because he fell in love with Miriam or Rachel. That's not a real conversion. Because if she would be Fatma, he would also become Muslim. She didn't come for God. He came for relationship. That's a fake conversion. But real conversion, everyone is welcome. No prejudice, no racism whatsoever. You want to join the nation of God, you prove that you're legit, they accept you, and you are in the highest level of Judaism. The Torah says 36 times to respect the converts, to love them, not to deceive them, to help them, to understand them. 36 obligations in the Torah to accept the converts that came from different nations. Why? Because it's a new beginning for them. They need the help. Don't ignore them. Be nice to them. Have patience to them. Of course, don't take advantage on the ignorance, etc., etc. Now we move on to the most important thing that we have to speak about tonight. After God gave the Torah, one of the proofs that I use in my film is, because every one of you know that to be religious is not so simple. If a person is free to do whatever he wants, he gets up whenever he wants, he eats whatever he wants, he goes out with whoever he wants, he steals, he cheats, he lies, he curses, he dresses the way he wants, he does whatever he wants. Sabbath is a regular working day for him. He's not modest, his wife is not modest. Nothing in his life matters. He lives 100% free to do whatever he feels like. Taking a person like this and convincing him to change his lifestyle completely from A to Z, that he's going to follow all the rules of God in the Torah, is not exactly an easy mission to do. However, we have to ask ourselves how an entire nation overnight became ultra-Orthodox. They came out of Egypt, 210 years of slavery, and all of a sudden everyone became religious according to the rules of Torah. When I come to you today, and I brought a book with me, and I claim that God gave me this book to pass it to you, right away you will say, this guy is dreaming. He came to waste our time here on a Sunday afternoon. What are we doing here? This guy is crazy. We came in such pouring rain. He's giving us this book. What's going on here? And then I say, wait, before you criticize me, here, just read 1 page from the book. Before you criticize me, give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's all. And you read in the first page that all of you heard me and God speaking. If it didn't happen, what would you do to me? Kick me out of the window. This guy is hallucinating. He has the nerve to give us a book claiming that all of us heard him and God speaking. So right away you say, I'm here, we are all here, we never heard you speaking to God. You're a liar. That's not a divine book. God doesn't write lies like this. You claim that all of us heard you speaking to God, no? We never heard you. If you didn't hear me, the Torah finished before it started. Who would become religious according to the rules when they find a first lie in the first page? Anyone would agree to listen to me another minute after they find such a lie? No one would continue to waste their time. But if you see that it says that all of you heard me and God speaking, and it really happened, remember, if one of you did not hear, everyone heard. But one of you would raise his hand and say, excuse me, they claim they heard you speaking to God. Very nice. I'm here also. I did not hear you speaking to God. That will be the end of it. Why? Because in the Torah it says all of you with no exception, even the deaf people, all of you, that particular moment, heard me and God speaking. That's what it says in the Torah. And they all agree to accept the Torah. But it gets much better. It says over there, all the 100 miracles that happened to them from the time they came out of Egypt until now. Bread is falling from heaven, the ocean split, the Egyptian drowns in Egypt. bloods all over, frogs, every firstborn in Egypt died, all these strange things. Many of them are against all odds. Who would believe? Even in Hollywood, you don't have such miracles in their movies. Too many miracles in one movie, nobody will pay attention to this movie. We have 100 miracles, each one of them is against all odds. And yet, I'm coming to fool you, right? If I'm a faker, and I want all of you to listen to my words, and I claim that I'm the prophet of God. Now, I'm giving you this book, and you read in the book that I, with the help of God, made to you 100 miracles in the last year. If one of these miracles didn't really happen to you, all of them did happen. One did not happen. You would raise your hand and say, I'm sorry, it's true that we were in Egypt. It's true the ocean split. It's true that we have bread falling. It's true. But blood, we don't remember that we saw blood all over the Nile. We didn't see blood. One mistake would make the book not divine. It's a human error. One human error, the book became a toilet paper. It's either the book of God or toilet paper, no in between. You understand what I just said or no? Again, let me repeat myself. If you find one mistake in a book, you cannot rely on the rest of the book. Why? Because God doesn't make such mistakes. If God said that he took us to the Dead Sea and he split the water for us and we went through and it didn't happen to us, I would raise my hand and say, excuse me, Moses, you're a nice person, but you told us all these fairy tales. I didn't see the ocean split. We were not even in Egypt. What slavery are you talking about? What every firstborn died in Egypt? Who is Pharaoh? What happened in Egypt? We don't know. Where do you brought this story from? Now, do you think that Moses was such a fool to make up such a Hollywood movie and come to sell it to you like you, the actors in a movie? Who would come to a group of people, millions of people, and claim, I did this for you, and did, and this, and this, and this, and this. For 1 hour, I'm describing all the miracles I did to you in the last year, and none of them happened. And I want you to be religious. What's my chance? You'll stone me to death in 1 minute. So this guy is crazy. Put him in a mental house. So far makes sense what I say or no?
Yes.
Very good. Let's move on. So why God created the world? Why God created the world? Why does he need us here? Does he need something from us? Is he incomplete without us? If we keep the Sabbath, it makes him happy, and if not, it makes him upset and depressed. What exactly is happening in this creation? Every creation has a purpose, you understand? Nobody ever made anything without thinking first what he needs. I need to sit, so I created a chair. Why did I make the chair 4 legs? If it would have 3, it would defeat the purpose of the chair. It's a waste of time. 3 legs. Fall down. Cannot sit. Why I can lean back? That my back won't hurt after 5 minutes. I cannot lean back. It's not comfortable. Why this one is tilted like this? Because when they put the Torah, it should be easy for the one who reads to read. It will be straight. It's very hard to see. But if it goes like this, very easy. Why it's in this height? Why it's not like this? Because they won't be able to read. Everything, it's first comes the plan, then comes the actual creation. Now, first of all, the more sophisticated is the creation. Does it indicate about the brilliance of the Creator or about his foolishness? What do you think?
Brilliance.
Brilliance, right? If the computer is very sophisticated, it shows that the creator of this computer is very intelligent. But if the computer is very foolish, 2, 3 wires, there's nothing working, then okay, no, a non-professional made it. What's harder, to make a video camera or to make a wood chair? Video camera, right? For a wooden chair, one day you're in a factory, you know how to make. To make a video camera, you need few years to learn how it works, all the circuits, these wires, all the electronic devices, to put them together in a perfect timing. One little mistake, the entire camera doesn't work. One wire you cut inside, it's like in a brain. The brain has 10 trillion connections, 10 trillion. If you take all the satellites, all the telephone companies in the world, every wire in the entire world combined, cellular, satellites, everything, is not 1% of the dumbest Jew in the world from his brain. Take the dumbest Jew in the world, take his brain, size of an apple. 80% of that is liquid. So get rid of the liquid. So the brain of a human being is like 2 fingers. This is what it is. That's the size of, that's the human being really. If you take all the wiring from the brain, get rid of all the liquid, the size of an apple became like one slice. That's it. So now let me ask you a question. If you take the entire network of telephones and satellites and cables, everything combined will not be 1% of a brain of one human being. Multiplied by 7 billion people who walks in the streets of the world. That's a very serious creation. Now that's not only that. You have 2 million different species that we know them by name. 2 million different species, lion, tiger, elephant, 60 different kinds of bees. Who knows? It's a huge list. And each one of the species have billions or trillions of creatures. And all of them have brains, and stomach, and lungs, and wings, and veins, and blood. You know, it's a very sophisticated creation. It's very not logical to think that something like this became out of a random explosion. Why? If I come to you and I say I walked on the street on my way here, I was in a rush, just when I walked by the garbage can, I heard an explosion. I got very nervous. I saw pieces are flying from the garbage can in the air like this. And all of a sudden, I saw a glass coming from out of nowhere, and the chain, all the pieces all connected in the air, and the glass was right into place, and the battery went in, and the cover came in, and it came like this, and here is a watch from an explosion. Would I be able to give another lecture ever? So you're laughing at me, but you're much worse than me. Why? You believe all this nonsense that the professors been selling you in colleges every day, every hour, all over the world. What do they say? The world came out of an explosion, the Big Bang. Fine, Big Bang. But who designed the Big Bang? Who? Who designed it? An explosion, boom. No? Can you throw a bomb and something will come out of it? Take 100 coins and throw it on the floor. Let's say it came in a certain shape. Now I'm going to give you 1 billion chances to repeat the exact same thing. By throwing it 1 billion times, would you repeat exactly the same shape? Will never happen. What's the chance that a random explosion made billions of systems and combined all of them together, one into the other, because one complete the other? For instance, to create a heart. You know how sophisticated is the heart of a human being? The pump, the connection, the valves, connecting into the lung, connecting into the brain. It's a whole big thing. Now, to create the lungs, and now to create the brain, and then put them together. It's very difficult to assemble them together. One tiny move, it's not going to work. And besides, how all of them all of a sudden were created in the exact second that you needed them to be together. If one would create it now and 1 year later, it won't help anything. And then there's 1 million other systems in a body. Somehow all of them became by coincidence, and somehow all of them connected together, and somehow all of them function for thousands of years without mistakes. Do you really believe this nonsense? Yes.
Can I ask you a question? Because I took a class in this in college.
Yeah.
And,
Of course you did.
Go ahead, let's go.
what you described as creationist theory, and that everything has a purpose and a designer, and etc. So, like, why did we have dinosaurs or mammoths or fossils?
Why we have crocodiles?
They were Jewish.
Same thing, we have dinosaurs. Dinosaurs disappeared after the flood, 4,200 years. They did not enter the ark after God said to Noah to build a big boat, huge boat, an ark. All the Torah said that all the big animals did not have any room in the ark. Only normal size animal, which probably the elephant is the biggest out of all of them, and a giraffe, entered the ark. All the huge animals, such as dinosaurs and others, did not enter the ark. You find their bones in archaeology, and it's no contradiction to the Torah. The Torah says God created the huge crocodiles, which leads us to believe that he's speaking about dinosaurs. Remember, dinosaurs is a modern word. The Torah was 3,300 years ago. And crocodiles and dinosaurs have similarity. They look alike, and they have the same idea with legs and all that. So, yeah, there was big animals. There's not contradiction. The Gemara speaks about huge animals. So I don't see why people hold dinosaurs as a contradiction to Judaism. The opposite. The opposite. Huh?
A dinosaur is not millions of years old?
Not millions of years old. I tell you what, I don't want to get into this subject because it will take 4 hours. But if you trust me, all you have to do, on my CDs, you have my website. On my website, I put 2 films by an American scientist, non-Jew, not religious, not Jewish, nothing to do with Judaism. His name is Robert Gentry, and he made 2 films, The Fingerprints of the Creation. It's a must-see. He's an American scientist that proves to you one by one that everything the scientists are claiming that the world is millions of years old, it's all baloney. And he proves one by one, knowing exactly the methods and the formulas that they are using. Don't believe me, believe him, because he's a specialist. Listen to him. I put it, there's a reason why I put it in my website. It saves me a lot of arguments. Why should I argue 4 hours about it? He did the job better than me, because he's a specialist. He wrote letters to all these scientists, and they don't have answers. It's all based on theory. Remember, there are 2 kinds of science. Speculative science and objective science. Objective science can be proven. Speculative science, it's based on speculation. Someone makes a theory, and now they have to build how the theory started and how it developed, and they begin to make a lot of theories and put them together, and all of a sudden it became a fact. In the United States, it's against the law in many states to claim that the person came from a monkey. And it's against the law to claim that the theory of the evolution of Darwin, it's a fact. It's against the law because it's misleading the students. Yes, in some states.
You also know that anal sex is also illegal in some of the...
It's in, what?
Anal sex is also illegal in some of the states. Just because it's illegal doesn't make it right. We got a bunch of...
No. Let me explain to you what's the difference. Let me explain to you what's the difference.
No, hold on.
No. I'm not arguing with you.
Because there's a law against everything.
I'm not arguing with you because I don't know the constitution of every state. But I want to tell you what I meant. I meant the evolution of Darwin, it's a theory, and the followers of Darwin admitted that everything he says is wrong. They modify his entire theory from the beginning. Why? Because there's no middle step. You have a beginning and you have an end, and they never found the connecting piece. They never found. So therefore, it stayed a theory. You know how many millions of theories you have out there? If I'm going to start believe every theory who comes to the world, there's not going to be an end to it. Would I base my life on a theory of someone who lived a few hundred years ago? It's very foolish. I didn't come here to sell you any theory. Only 100% proof. And what's the proof? Let's talk about some of the proofs. I made a film, Torah and Science. It proves that the Torah can never be written by a human being. Can never be written by a human being. A person was unable to write such a book, no matter how brilliant it is. Why? Because, first of all, it's full of prophecies. A person can be a brilliant Albert Einstein, but he doesn't know what's going to happen a month from now. Nobody knows the future. A person doesn't have these abilities to write an entire prophecy, 3 full pages with hundreds of details, and 1,000 years later it happened in details. What person? I'll give you an example what I'm talking about a prophecy. The Torah said to the Jews, after they came out of Egypt, 49 days later, God gave the Torah to the Jews. When the Jews officially entered the land of Israel, 40 years later, only 40 years later, they went and circled in a desert until all the generation who came out of Egypt slowly died, and the new generation who were born in a desert, they entered the Holy Land. Who was the leader who entered them? Joshua. He took Moses' place. So now, when the Jews received the Torah, in the Torah there is a promise. What's the promise? I'm going to give you the land. There are 7 empires who sit in the land. Aprizi, Yevusi, Girgashi, Knaani, Achiti, all these big empires with massive army. It's the most desired land in the world ever. Even now, Israel. Look what's happened. All religions fighting for Israel, for Jerusalem. You see what's happening. It's nothing new. It was always the most important point of the world. 7 nations share the land, even though Israel was much bigger than today. But there are 7 armies sitting there and sharing the land of Israel. God comes to the Jews and says, I'm giving you the Torah, and I make a promise to you. I swore to your father, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that I will take their children to the land and will give them the land. I will throw these Gentiles from the land and give you the land, and you will build the holy temple for me. But if you won't listen to me and will not obey my rules, I will punish you by destroying your temple by a nation that you do not recognize their language, who will come from far away and will destroy your temple and will sell you to Egypt to be slaves, and you will be sold for a price of a meal of a horse, which means $5 in our time. And nobody would have any interest to buy you. And they'll take you to Egypt in a boat. To say something like this that happened more than 1,000 years later, who would know to describe such a thing in a book? One of the details is incorrect, the book is over. Judaism is over. And listen what happened. The Jews enter the land and they build the temple. One day the Roman comes from Italy, from Rome. It's a nation you don't recognize their voice, because their language, because you recognize the language of your neighbors, but you don't recognize a nation who come from far away. They come with an army, all they want to do is destroy the temple. They came to destroy the temple, and they took the Jews and sold them to Egypt to slave. How did they take them to Egypt? On a boat. What for? It's much easier to take few hundred thousands of Jews in one line, like the Nazis used to do, march, walk to Egypt. 11 days to walk. Why do I have to bother bringing boats from Italy, huge boats, putting the Jews and take them all the way from the port of Gaza to Egypt? What for? Let them walk. It's no big deal. They walk. It's like walking, 11 days walk, and you're there. Why do I have to bring boats, put you there, take you to Egypt? It's too much. Why? Because the prophecy said that that's how it's going to be. And when they arrived to Egypt, nobody wanted to buy them. Check in a history. This is a prophecy, one out of thousands of prophecies that the Torah has. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to make a deal with you. You open the Torah in any chapter you want, and on that page I will show you prophecies to the future. Do you know one book in history besides the Torah, include Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, any book you can think of, that has one prophecy in it? Show me. I'll give you a huge prize. Nostradamus, let me tell you, my friend, Nostradamus did not make even one prophecy. 2 words he say, and then the world made him a prophet. He said the word Hitler, and everybody changed it to Hitler.
There's a bunch of things.
Wait, go and check. I check. What do you think? I'm speaking to people so many years. No, listen. And he said there will be a person, a leader with a birthmark. And they found Mikhail Gorbachev that has a birthmark on his head, and they did, oh, Nostradamus is a prophet. That's not a prophecy. Let me tell you something. If I come and say to you in 30 years from now, in the year 2040, in 5th Avenue, between 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it will pass more than 500 yellow cabs in 1 hour. And then in 2040, somebody read my book and said, oh, this guy was a prophet. How did you know? Look, we're standing here in Manhattan today, 30 years later, and more than 500 cars pass by. Is that an indication that I'm a prophet? If I write 1 million words and 2 of them somehow are similar to something that happened in the future, that's a prophecy. I'm talking to you a prophecy that it's against all logic, against all odds. Nobody can imagine it. And it's described in a full 2-3 pages in details, hundreds of details, one after the other. That's a prophecy that nobody could dream about it. If I'm coming today and tell you in 1,000 years from now, in one day between 2 and 4, it's going to be a pink rain coming down. Not regular rain, pink rain. And then I was right, then I'm a prophet. Because there was no way to predict such a thing. But if I come and say to you, in 8 years from now, United States will have a nuclear facility on the moon. And then 8 years later, they really build a nuclear facility on the moon. So is that an indication that I'm a prophet? No. Maybe the engineer that Obama nominated for the job is my neighbor and he told me the secret. That's not an indication that I'm a prophet. Prophecy means that I come and tell you something that nobody can imagine. And not 1 or 2 details coincidentally came similar to reality. We're talking things that nobody can predict, an entire movie. Such as all the prophets. In Christianity, you don't have one prophecy. Except one. 200 years after the New Testament was given, the Pope of that time, it's approximately 1800 years ago, made an announcement in the name of the Christian Church. The Jews will never return back to the Holy Land. God annulled the covenant that he made with them. After he destroyed the second temple, he is no longer considered them as the chosen people. Therefore, they will never return to the Holy Land. But the Jews returned to the Holy Land in millions. So we asked the previous Pope, not the German one, the Polish one from before, we asked him, how do you explain, no, I'm serious. We send him a question, how do you explain that the Jews returned to the Holy Land after you gambled by giving one prophecy and it turns to be false? So guess what his answer was? No, use your imagination. What do you think the Pope's answer was? The Vatican does not recognize the state of Israel. What's the connection? Who's speaking now about the state of Israel? We're talking politics here. You say the Jews as people will not return to the Holy Land. Millions of Jews are in the Holy Land. Who cares? State of Israel, no state of Israel. Before it became a state, after it became a state, doesn't matter. You say the Jews will not go back to the land. Jews from all over the world gathering in Israel. And they build an entire state. So how do you explain it? Of course, one prophecy, one mistake. In the Quran, do you think there are prophecies? All Muslims scream all day, all over the media, Prophet Muhammad, you offended Prophet Muhammad, Prophet, Prophet, Prophet. Not one prophecy in the entire Quran. You understand how dangerous is ignorance? How much suffering came to the world for a piece of paper that people like you and I wrote, and it's full of human errors? But the Torah, nobody ever found one mistake in the Torah for 3,300 years until this moment. And nobody will ever find. Why? It's a divine book by the creator of the world. Everything the Torah say, it's in a language I created, I gave, I did, I promise. I will do, I will not do. The creator of the world speaking to the Jews, and this is what he say to them. I chose you from all the nation to be my children. Not because you are the biggest nation, because I promised and made a covenant to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that I will reward and benefit their descendants forever. But I'm making this covenant with you as a condition. If you follow my instructions and my laws and live according to my divine laws, I will reward you and your children for eternity. And if not, each one is subject to the punishments that the Torah has. That's basically the reason why I'm here today. Why I'm here today. If in the last page of the Torah, God would conclude his book like this. Dear Jew, I showed you what I showed you. You want to follow me? Fine. You don't want to follow me? No problem. No hard feelings. I love you anyway. It's a love for father to son. Whether the son listens to him or not, he still love him. If he's in jail, dead, I need to get released on bail. He's not such a good boy, but the father, at 2 o'clock at night, get dressed and go to the prison to get him out. Why? It's an unconditional love. If it's just a friend who messed up a few times, oh, you know what? Let your father save you. Let me sleep now. Let your son, you got to do something. What can you do? So if the Torah say, dear Jew, after everything you saw, you want to follow my instruction, I'm very happy. You don't follow my instruction, so you won't get the reward that I promised, but there's no punishment, no hard feeling. One day you die, you become sent, and that's the end of the story. However, if you listen to me, I will reward you when your soul exits the body and goes to the spiritual world, separate from the physical world. That's the place of the reward. And over there, it's no limit. It's no 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, etc. It's for eternity. It's endless pleasure for being righteous Jew in this life. And the Torah say, I'm putting you in a test in this physical world to test you. Do you love me or not? In another verse it says, I'm testing you to see what's in your heart. Would you be faithful and keep my laws or not? And another place he say, I'm strict with you like a father is strict with the son because I love you. I would reward you and your children for eternity. Some Jews come to the rabbi and say, Rabbi, you all give these beautiful lectures, but how do I know really there's life after life? One day I died, you promise heaven, you promise hell, you promise all kinds of things. How do I really know? Anyone ever came back from there? So the answer is first, yes. More than 30 million people, 8 million Americans alone, died and came back to life. Even though, according to science, if you're dead for more than 6 minutes and come back to life, your brain is permanently damaged. Your memory is erased, your cell, it's all damaged. But somehow, there's an exception to the rule. There are people who died for more than 6 minutes, no oxygen, no brain waves, no pulse, no feelings. You can burn them with a cigarette, they don't make a beep. Nothing. He's dead already for 20 minutes. And all of a sudden, he opened up his eyes and described what happened to him. I flew, I saw the hospital. He described every room in a hospital, who is in each room, what doctor, what tag, what color hair, what nurse, what's the signs, what's the dates. Everywhere in the entire hospital described shoes on the floor, in a surgery room, on the roof of the building, from the outside of the building. And at the same time, it described the place of an accident, which could be 10 miles away. He came to the hospital with the ambulance when he's dead completely. And now he's in the hospital for another hour dead, and 2 hours later he comes back to life. And you can watch my lecture, Life After Life. I bring proofs from the biggest parapsychologist in America, Dr. Raymond Moody, Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Stevenson, many of the cardiologists and psychologists and psychiatrists who are 20 years into this field, proving that there are people who died and came back to life. And believe it or not, some of them, Jews or non-Jews, already described their trial, just like the Torah said, that God started to show them their entire life. And every day over there, that's a spiritual communication, like telepathy. You don't have to talk. Whatever you think, this is what automatically comes out. And you see a huge light, and you go into a tunnel, exactly like the Torah described. How did the Torah know 3,300 years ago that a person would come and see light? How did the Torah say that he will go into a tunnel? How did the Torah say there is a trial? And everything that the Torah say, Jews and non-Jews testify that that's what happened. Now remember, there are people who died for 40 minutes. When you burn them, when you pinch them, you do whatever you want, they don't make a beep. Later, when the soul enters back into the body, they begin to scream from the pain. When the body is broken to pieces, the joint came out, the knees came out. One person, they brought his jaw in a pot. They put it in a pot. They found it in a highway. They brought it to the hospital. They connected it with screws. For 6 months, he was in Israel in a hospital. He made a whole video about what happened to him after he died. And they put everything together. And then when he came back to life, after receiving all this morphine, he was dying from pain. But all the time he was dead, he didn't feel anything. Why? Because the soul was out of the body. When the soul is in the body, you remember, you function, you have your intelligence, you have your knowledge, everything is there. When the soul comes out of the body, you have everything, but you have nothing. Your memory doesn't work, your intelligence doesn't work. When Albert Einstein died, they searched for all his knowledge in his brain. But all they saw, it's a piece of meat that you can slash it to slices and sell it by the butcher for 99 cents. You know, in Israel, they sell the brain of the cow in some places. So they put it in a nice pack. If you take a brain of a person and put it $9.99 a pound, put it next to the cow, nobody would know the difference. Where is the intelligence? Where is the knowledge of Albert Einstein? In this piece of brain? Do you really believe it's in a body, in a physical body? Of course not. Let me give you another example of a body and soul. When a person goes to dream, when he falls asleep and he dreams, scientists prove that the longest dream is 9 seconds. That's it. 9 seconds. Some electric in the brain, some waves, some excitement. The pulse go a little bit faster, and a person wake up and begin to cry and to scream. His wife asking him, "What's happened? What happened?" He begin to describe 6-month nightmare. Conversation. The Arabs took him. They put him in Gaza. They beat him up. You dirty Jew. Every day that. Wait until we see what we're gonna do to you. All of a sudden, he wakes up. He begins to cry. His wife says, "What happened, Moshe?" So I have no idea. They took me, they put me in Gaza every day, or beating me up, cursing me in Arabic. She said to him, "How exactly did 6 months enter in 9 seconds? How?" The answer is, when the soul exits the body, it's no longer subject to the law of physics. Only where material exists, time exists. Remember what Albert Einstein said? Where you have material, you have time. No material, no time. Albert Einstein got the credit for it but the one who wrote it 700 years before him is the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, one of the greatest Jew ever lived. He wrote it in Barcelona, in Spain. As a big Kabbalist, he wrote, time exists where material exists. No material, no time. Albert Einstein, 700 years later, got the credit. It's all documented today. But 700 years ago, the colleges don't know the Ramban so well. Some know, some don't. But it's in Judaism. There's nothing new but what he said. Whatever the Torah say, when you have material, you have time. This is what it means, the first verse in the Torah, Bereshit bara Elokim ta shamayim ve'et haaretz. All the commentators explain that's the creation of time. Once material was created, the first second, time began. And from then until now, 5,771 years. From the time of Adam's creation until now, 5,771 years. Let's conclude, because time is running out. We have mamash 5 more minutes. So in that case, what's the purpose of life? The answer is, many of us think that we came to this world to eat, to drink, to have a relationship, love, hate, or making money, nice cars, nice watches, etc. The answer is, if that was the purpose of life, the Creator would make us monkeys. He didn't need to put us here with the divine soul, with feeling, with free choice, with all kinds of things, just to eat. To eat, you can be a chimpanzee, also enjoy, or a dog, they also eat. To have a female, to have babies, you can be a dog. You don't need to be an intelligent human being for that. To make money, the animals live without money. They don't have problems. They don't have to work 30 years to buy a house, pay mortgage 30 years, traffic 4 hours every day. They don't need all this. They don't need vaccine, changing diapers, 20 years to raise a baby. In the end, he become a criminal. You have to release him on bail. They don't have all this. No drug addiction, $25,000 a month. Your son is somewhere in Canada, in rehab. They don't have this, the animals. He comes, the chimpanzee, the female, she moves her tail. The male come like this. 2 minutes later, they have twins. And the twins become basketball players 2 minutes later. They just born, they're already playing with the ball. No, I mean, they're playing, in a safari, you throw them a ball, they run, they jump. You saw the deer is born, 2 minutes later, what happened? They begin to run. Don't need anything. Wow, baby, bring him home, gas every night. Hey, sleep already, I have work tomorrow. I don't have all this. So what's good about being a person? This is what the Torah says. And this is what I wanted to pass this message to each one of you. The Torah says there is no advantage to the human being on the animals whatsoever. Nothing. They run faster, they're stronger, they have easier life. Everything by them is simple, no show off, none of this, 10 years in college, degree, you find a job, unemployed, you don't find a job. They don't have all this headache. So, did you ever see a monkey with gray hair? They don't have stress. Did you ever see a bald animal? They lost their hair? No stress. Stress make a person bald fast. I have a cousin. Let me tell you a quick story. I have a cousin. He's more or less my age. He went into business. He was selling electronic to the Arabs in the Gaza and those Jericho and those territories. Then the Intifada started. A year before the Intifada started, he was making very good business. In 1 year, him and his partner have 3 fancy cars. They have a beautiful place in Tel Aviv, showroom for electronic. People owe them millions of shekels. In 1 year, he did very well. All of a sudden, the Intifada started. What did the first thing the Arab do? They don't pay the Jews what they owe them. So in 1 month, he went bankrupt. He owed his suppliers. There's no way to go into the Arab territories. Nobody sent you the check. So he right away went bankrupt. I saw him a month before the Intifada started. I saw him 2 weeks after it started, or 3 weeks after. Within a month and a half, his entire hair became white. I'm not exaggerating. Within a month and a half, maybe 6 weeks we're talking here, from the stress of people in Israel. When you owe money, it's not like here, someone is begging you a collection. Excuse me, sir, would you be kind to send 10%? We'll waive it from your credit. In Israel, they send you gangster to the house. They come, where is the guy? He's not here, they take the laundry machine. The next day they come, where is he? Okay, they take the couches. Next day they take the television. That's how it is, they take your glasses. They pull the glasses from your face and go. They're collectors, nothing you can do, it's with the law. It's collector. That's how it is. They beat you up if you resist. Sometimes you don't say anything. You just beg them. Maybe you leave the couch at least. They give you a punch, they break your nose, and then in the end they claim that you attacked them. That's what's happening today. So the stress drove him crazy. In 1.5 months, he became all white. So he show you the stress has a lot to do with that. The monkeys don't have it. So what's the advantage of a person? The answer is none, except one. And that's what the Torah says, the book of God, the creator of the world, our creator. And it applies to each one of you here with no exception, and to me as well. What does it say? The only advantage that a person has from all the animals is the divine soul that I put in his body, which will be judged by me in the time of death. That's why in Judaism we say a Kaddish for the deceased people for 1 year. Where all these customs come from, that a Jew died and his children come to the synagogue and say, "It gadal v'itkadash shmei Rabbah." Where does it come from? For 1 year. Why not for 1 month? And why not forever, as long as you live? Why only 1 year, 12 months? Because the trial is 1 year. And you want to help your father or your brother, whoever dies in your family, God forbid. So by helping them is by saying a special prayer to praise God in the time of the trial. The Torah told us the secret that it helps the deceased people. And the custom of sitting Shiva for 1 week because the soul is still connected to the world for 7 days after the death. After that, that's it. No more visitation. 7 days, that's why we sit Shiva, to show them that we care for them, that they left. All these old customs have roots. It's all mystical Kabbalah secrets. But today, people have no knowledge in Judaism, complete ignorance. They never learned Judaism, and they criticize the Torah without knowing what it is. Why? It's a new generation who grew up in Brooklyn. So they go to college, they go to elementary school, they learn about a lot of things. Every Jew today is an expert in computer. Some in medicine, some in sports, some in cars. But none of the Jews know 1% of Judaism. The most important thing for the purpose of life, almost all the Jews in the world never learn even once in their life. Anybody here can raise his hand and say to me once that he read the Torah in the simple way. Forget the secrets, forget all the commentaries, forget all that. Just the literal translation of the Torah from the beginning to the end. 304,805 letters. The divine Torah of God. Any Jew today in Israel or in America or in Russia, a secular Jew, ever read the book of God once in his life? Can it be a bigger crime than this? That a person has in his house a book full of dust, 1 inch of dust on top of it. Not one time in his life he read what God wants from me as a human being. So let me tell you what he wants. It says in the Torah, the only advantage is the divine soul that I gave you. I'm giving you the life and the good. Mamash, another minute and we're done because I got to run. So please, 1 more minute, bear with me. If not, I would stay with you another hour, so you're lucky. 1 minute, I'm out of here. And you take the rest, is the CDs and my website. So, God say, I'm giving you the life and the good, the bad and the death, and you should choose the good, that I should reward you in your end. And if you don't, what happened? It's either a reward or punishment. If there would not be punishments, I wouldn't waste my time coming here. I came more than 2.5 hours driving to here, with lots of traffic and rain. Why? Because I know it's an important thing to save your souls before it's going to be too late. You don't believe me? You have my telephone number, my email. You can ask me any question you want. The CDs will answer probably all your questions. If you watch this film, Torah and Science, you will get the answer for the purpose of life, for life after life, for the written Torah, for the oral Torah, for the free choice. How does it work? If God knows the future, how is it possible we're choosing? Why righteous people sometimes suffer and wicked people celebrate? Where is the justice that God speaks about? What's the purpose of marriage? What does it mean to raise children? What's my obligation? What's my responsibilities? How much I have to put efforts in making money? How much I have to trust God? Things that affect each one of you all your life. It's a biggest crime for you against yourself not to know these elements, these important foundations of life. Ignorance is the biggest danger to a life of a person in any field. Nevertheless, in the most important thing, the purpose of his life. Person will live here 7 years and not touch the purpose why God put him here. Isn't it such a major disappointment like this? You come in front of God and say 7 years of your life was a waste of time. Not 1 minute of your life you were connected to me. Not 1 minute of your life you did what I put you here to put. You did not gain anything. You did not achieve anything. You destroyed my world. And now there's a huge list of sins that you make, and I have to judge you for each one of them. When you're going to wake up over there, you're going to remember this Sunday here and say, why didn't I listen? Why didn't I grab a CD? I hope you'll be clever enough to trust me that I'm not telling you stories and watch the film. What I can do in 1 hour, it's very limited. I only give you a touch of each. Go into my website. There's 1,000 lectures. There's in our Facebook, we have more than 2 million views every month. It's very interesting, I promise you, in English, in Hebrew, even in Russian, some of the lecture translated. But please do not waste the opportunity that you have. No, we'll take a question or two. Yes?
So is the idea then that the world is just like God created a world that's either like Jews and then just Gentiles? Because then you just prove that in reality, like Christianity, Islam, all those religions are not a word of God. So then there's
only one truth, one religion. The rest is all nonsense. It's people made it up. But wait.
Jews and Gentiles?
Yes, but the Gentile, a righteous Gentile is better than a wicked Jew. Which means a righteous Gentile has to keep 7 laws and is subject to heaven. If he wants a harder test, it's in his hand. He comes, he converts. His job is much harder now, and his reward will be harder, or punishment, depending if he'll do good or not. Nobody forced him to convert. Judaism is not a missionary religion. We're not after the Gentiles to beg them to convert. The opposite. We test them many times that they prove that they're legit. And only after that we convert them, the Jewish court. Well, once they converted, they're 100% Jews like everybody else. But all the other religions are man-made religion. That's why they are not, the Gentiles are not subject to these religions. Yes? Yes?
Okay, so every Jew right there has to have a DNA. Every Jew that's not a convert will have a special DNA, correct?
Every Jew that is not a convert,
right.
yes.
So how does that convert like every other Jew?
First of all, DNA has nothing to do with the soul. DNA is a physical thing. You can have a Jewish DNA and you're 100% a goy. Why? Because it came from your father and your mother is Christine. So if your mother is Christine and your father is Moshe, you got the DNA of Moshe. Maybe Moshe is a Kohen, so you have the DNA of Aaron, the brother of Moses, but your mother is Christine and your soul is not a Jewish soul. So DNA has nothing to do with your Jewish soul or non-Jewish soul. Any more questions?
Yeah, but is this a God's word, or it is just later people come up with that and say, yeah, like if your mother is a Jew, you would...
No, it's divine. The Torah says, Abba min hagoya karui bna. Yeah, because the Torah refer when Jews had relation with a non-Jewish woman, the Torah called the kids her kids, not your kids. Yes. Not only that, the truth is that if a Jew had a kid with a non-Jewish woman and 20 years later that daughter wanted to convert, a Jew can marry his own daughter, biological daughter, because she's not his daughter according to the Torah. But the rabbis do not allow it, because then the Gentiles will say, what kind of nation is this? They marry their own daughters. But when God said to you that if your wife is not Jewish, the kids are not Jewish, he did not joke. It's 100% that if your wife is Christine and you call your daughter Jennifer, this Jennifer is a Goya, is not a Jew. So one day this Jennifer will be 20 years old and she wants to convert. You can be 40, she can be 20, you can marry her and it's not a sin. Why? Because she's really not your daughter. And Jews do not understand that.
It is in the Torah.
But the rabbis do not allow it. So one way or the other, it's not allowed. Any more? Last question. No? Yeah. No more prophecies.
Why did it end already?
No more prophecies, because in the Torah it says that one point the level of the sins of the Jewish nation will be so high that God say, and at that day I will hide myself from them. I will hide my face and they will not see my supervision on the creation. In Hebrew it sounds like this. Bayom ha'u aster astir panai mehem. Why? Because they betrayed me so much. Now the miracles will all be hidden in nature. But up to 2,000 years ago, the miracles were clear. But the level of the idol worshipping also was very high. Because not to ruin the free choice. When the miracles of God were revealed and clear, the idols also had power. Today, it's very hard to find the miracles of God. Therefore, the idols also don't have any power. It's all equal, 50-50. It's a matter of if you choose the truth or not. Thank you very much again. Thank you. We'll meet again. Thank you very much. Please take CDs, please.